U.S. and Iran are paused for now as Tehran prepares to hold a multi-day funeral for its former supreme leader. But the regime is not backing off its demands, now insisting commercial ships in the Strait of Hormuz follow routes approved by Tehran, even as more and more tankers steer closer to Oman, chipping away at Iran's control over the waterway. Let's bring in former Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Oren. Thank you so much for being here. So what do you make of Iran's latest warning here? Where is this all going next?
Well, good to be with you, Sandra, John. It's going not any place fast, apparently. It's difficult to see where the minimum that Iran would give would remotely approach the minimum that the United States needs to move forward on this agreement. And Iran has made very clear that it intends to take tolls of ships moving through the Strait of Hormuz, which basically means that Iran will continue to control that vital international waterway. That is apparently unacceptable to the Trump administration. And then there's the list of other issues which have yet to be discussed, which is the nuclear issue, removing the nuclear stockpile of highly enriched uranium, the ballistic missile program, and, of course, the support for terror.
You know, as Sandra mentioned at the top of this, Mr. Ambassador, the multi-day funeral for Ayatollah Khamenei, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike back at the very beginning of this conflict, I believe it was, first day, February the 28th. And I've been reading reports of what's going on inside the country. The IRGC, the besiege are everywhere. I mean, this really will be an opportunity for the brutal radical elements in Iran to reassert their dominance over the country.
But it's also a sign of weakness, John. The two members of the IRGC were assassinated this week. That's saying that there's people out there with guns who want to see this regime changed. When that's going to happen, how it's going to happen, we don't know. But I think this regime understands that it is hated by 85% of its own people and may indeed be living on borrowed time. You know, there's a lot of frustration with the way the war has ended so far, certainly in Israel, and not just in Israel. But we don't know just how deeply wounded this regime is and whether ultimately the regime will die of those wounds. Yeah, they can play for time in the Strait of Hormuz, but they desperately need money. They can't pay even the salaries of those besieged and IRGC thugs. And eventually, they're going to start either sweating or collapsing or giving in to the president's demands. This is a very fluid situation. It is not static by any means.
But right now, there seems to be some hope or some optimism that these talks are progressing at a very minimum. I'm looking at the markets right now, and gosh, oil prices just keep on dropping. At one point today, they were in the $67 range, but still down on the day and right around $68 a barrel. Gas prices keep coming down. So, Ambassador, there seems to be some sense in the market that things are moving in the right direction.
Well, they don't actually have to move in the right direction. I think that, first of all, the fall of oil prices is a very positive development, and we in Israel certainly would congratulate the president on that. But I think that the oil prices reflect the fact that there's not actual open tensions anymore. The two sides are not firing at each other anymore, and negotiations at one level or another are continuing. And I think as long as that situation persists, you're going to see further reductions in the price of oil. The idea is to basically keep the Iranians from firing on tankers going through the straits and keep the United States from being in a position where it has to respond to that type of aggression.
Iran has been significantly weakened from the force that it was before February 28th and the conflict began. Yet it still talks like it's the toughest dog in the street. After your defense minister, Israel Katz, said that Mojtaba Khamenei was marked for death, Abbas Araghchi, the foreign minister, put this out on X. The terms of the Islamabad MOU are crystal clear and public for all to see. POTUS has committed to the U.S. to muzzling its pets in Tel Aviv. If they ignore their master, Iran will school them. Any threat against our people and leadership will receive immediate, powerful response. I mean, you can't help but laugh at just the brashness of this because how many missiles, how many drones did they fire at Israel? And they think that they can punish Israel?
Well, maybe they can think that, but my response to that would be, bring it on. Israel's going to do whatever it needs to do to defend our people and defend our land. And I don't think we're anybody's pet, nobody's poodle. Of course, we always want to cooperate to the greatest degree possible with the White House, with the president. But at the end of the day, the responsibility of any Israeli government is the defense of our people and our land. And if the Iranians think that they're going to seek retribution for that by firing missiles at us, again, bring it on. We see who comes out worse for that.
Ambassador, always appreciate when you can join us. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, John. Bye-bye.
All right.